So you've opened the doors to your online community, you're getting a steady trickle of new members each week, and people are digging your content. Now what? If you're a community leader that's already got a bit of traction in your groups, or you've been running a group for a while and it's started to go a little bit quiet, you've probably thought to yourself on more than one occasion, how do I increase my engagement? Hello and welcome to the BuddyBoss podcast, where we dive deep into the strategies to help you build, launch and grow your online communities, courses and memberships. I'm your host Jason Broderick, marketing manager and head of content here at BuddyBoss. In today's episode, I'm going to walk you through exactly what online community engagement is, what it's not, and the 5 pillars of community engagement that you need to measure and manage. Let's dive in. So what is community engagement? Community engagement is the measurement and management of how many people participate in your community, how often, and to what depth. Community engagement is a strategy that identifies key groups of your members and the tactics required to encourage more of them to participate at the right level for them. Engagement allows you to measure how impactful your initiatives are and is also the activity responsible for causing that impact. So what is community engagement not? Community engagement on its own is not a measure of success. I'm going to say that again. Engagement on its own is not a measure of the success of your community. Does the engagement help you meet your community outcomes or goals? Well, if the goal of your community is to increase average customer value by 10%, and your thriving community with millions of likes and comments never causes anyone to buy anything, well, then your community is failing despite it being highly engaged. Engagement is not push notifications or emails or gamification, badges, prizes or welcome posts or member of the month posts. Those are all tools that you need to enact the tactics that you decide you need to increase engagement, but they're not engagement in and of themselves. There's no use saying, I need to increase my engagement, so I better start awarding badges. Awarding badges to who, for doing what and why? The engagement strategy is the who, what and why, not the tool that you use to achieve it. Engagement is not a blanket that you throw over all your members in the hopes that some of them raise their hand. For example, you wouldn't ask a brand new member to write a detailed tutorial on an expert level topic the first day they arrive. That's a sure way to make them run a mile and never come back. Instead, engagement is selective and segmented. It's a ladder that you want to encourage your users up one rung at a time. So what is the community engagement ladder, and what can you do as a community leader to measure and manage more of your members up it? The community engagement ladder has 5 steps up to the top. Ideally, you want as many of your members as possible to climb up those steps to the top. Almost all members start at the bottom, and in most cases, members won't skip more than 1 step on the way up. But once they're up there, they'll often jump back down to engage at the lower levels in a much deeper way. Those steps are consume, connect, contribute, collaborate, and create. And you don't want to know how long I spent with the thesaurus to find all of those C words. So let's go through these one by one. Consume. This measures how many of your members consume community content and resources passively without adding anything of value themselves. This is the lowest form of community engagement, where the value is flowing entirely one way, from the people who do contribute value to those who are passive or lurkers. However, this is where almost every single community user starts on their engagement journey. So it's important to measure and track, but it's also important to encourage users beyond this first step. Activities to measure at this stage: daily, weekly or monthly logins or active users, posts read per user per day, week or month, and time spent reading per user per day, week or month. Next we have connect. This measures how many relationships are being created or being engaged in your community, and is the next logical step for most of your community users. Are they discovering people with shared interests, knowledge or expertise that's valuable to them? Potential people to help them solve a problem they're having, or maybe even mentors to help guide them on a similar journey. If members feel a strong sense of connection through being a member of your community, they'll stay around for longer, return more often, and be more likely to want to contribute value themselves. Activities to measure at this stage include the number of users who accept you or the admins as friends, the number of users that you connect with privately or through direct message per week, the number of new friends or connections per user per day, week or month, the number of members attending virtual and in-person events organised by you or other group members. Next we have contribute. Here's where your users first get involved in adding content to your community. Usually their first touch point is not to author original content themselves, but to contribute in some way to already existing content that someone else has created. Contributions measure the level of people who add something of value to something already existing, or who help keep something of value alive and relevant. Often we think of contributions as answers to questions, but adding thought-provoking points of view to existing discussions also helps to keep them alive for longer. Contributions are sort of like a gateway drug to the higher forms of engagement like creation and collaboration. Activities to measure at this stage: the number of likes or reactions per post, the number of likes or reactions per user, the number of comments per post per user, the number of responses to forum discussions or answers to questions. Create. The most common form of community engagement, where members create new value for the community on their own. This is where an individual member directly authors something within the community that either causes value to be generated or is valuable in and of itself. Typically, average users create value by asking great questions or starting thought-provoking discussions, and your more engaged power users or super users create value by authoring instructional posts, writing topic-specific guides, creating how-to videos or walkthroughs, or inspiring other members with what they're up to. Activities you can measure at this stage: the number of questions asked by members in forums, the number of activity posts asking a question, the number of activity posts sharing value, entertainment, or inspiration, the number of resources created by a single author. Lastly, we have collaborate. Now your users elevate their connections with each other by joining forces to create value together. Collaboration is the final step on the ladder of contributing after a user starts to create value on their own. Collaboration can be prompted by community leaders or admins, or it can be prompted by other members. Members often collaborate to solve a common issue or to address a common challenge. Encouraging collaboration is the highest leverage, most scalable way for you to increase engagement in your community. Activities to measure at this stage: the number of live or virtual events hosted by group members, the number of guests attending those events that are hosted by group members, the number of active community moderators, the number of groups created, managed, or moderated mainly by community members, the level of engagement within those groups created, managed, or moderated mainly by community members, the number of resources that are created by more than one author. So now that you understand the 5 steps on the ladder of community engagement, the next step for you to think about is what different segments of users do you have at each stage of the ladder, and how are you going to encourage members at each stage to take the next step up the ladder to become more engaged members of your community. So here's what I want you to do. Pick just one stage from the 5 that I've outlined above, and in the comments below, tell me one thing that you could do to encourage more of your members to engage at that stage. I'm going to reply to every single one of you in the comments with feedback on your approach and to point you in the right direction, or with tips and tactics that you need to make it a success for your online community. If you've made it this far and you've got value from this video, do me a favor, click that like button and click the bell icon to keep up to date with all of the latest content here at BuddyBoss. Until next time.